Kevon, how come you don't talk about the course a lot on Twitter?
Uh-huh.
And I was like thinking about why. And the reason is...
Hi, and welcome back to Careers 2.0. I'm Philip, and today my guest is Kevon, a former CEO of an angel-backed startup that found his place in the creator economy. He went from a massive investment to making $10,000 per year as a beginner creator to now being one of the leaders of his community and teaching others how to build their own Career 2.0. A great guest to learn from, so let's jump right in. Usually when I talk with creators, it's the path is from a creator, from some posts something online, and then gradually it turns into a business, or it turns even into a SaaS business. You're coming at it a little bit differently. Like your background, you've been a VC-backed CEO first, and then transition in the content creator, right? So I want to know, how do you treat the content creation job? Is it a side project for you? Is it a backup plan, or is it just another mean to an end? Which is because I know that you still would like one day run some SaaS.
Well, yeah, you're exactly right. You did your research. It was never really, let's create content and see what happens. My background, actually not VC back, it's just angel back, but still tons of pressure, always looking at the growth metrics and a lot of people to answer to. And honestly, I figured that I'm not that type of CEO who can take care of the team, the customer, and the investor. It's just too many parties. So it was end of 2020. I decided to leave the SaaS that I was running because it wasn't going anywhere. And I didn't want to burn more of my investor money. So I thought that's the right thing to do. And my first daughter was coming along. So I had a 2-month break and I was like, what should I do now? I don't want to just hop onto the next thing. I want to spend some time, reflect a little bit, and maybe just spend time with my wife. So that's when I really just went online and looked at what other people are doing. And I stumbled upon this blog by Nate Ellison, a pretty popular creator, like writing for years. And I was like, wow, you can actually be recognized when you write online. I used to write online, but for B2B. So that was my light bulb moment. Like, okay, I love writing. I've been on and off with my blog for years, but maybe I can take it seriously. I have 2 months. So that was when I went all in, writing 1 article a week. That's it. Reflecting on my journey, ups and downs, failures from the SaaS and previous business. And yeah, that basically was it. I went on indiehackers.com and Twitter, and things start to go. I see people appreciating my writing and sharing. And that was, basically the turning point.
Do you then see this as the creator economy or the content creation game? Do you see it as a sort of more a lifestyle choice than a business choice?
I think it's both. Like after running that angel-backed startup, raising money and then trying to pitch to more VC, I didn't like that game. So I want to start going down the lifestyle path where I make enough money to sustain my family. But at the same time, the first question you asked me is this like a hobby at first, or is this a business strategy at first? It was pretty business, like, because I had a ton of background starting things in the past, right? So I was like, let's build some traction and see where that goes. If it didn't happen, then I'll figure something else out.
There's a pattern that I see is that successful creators look at what they're doing as a business. They like, you can have a hobby and you can create for years and it can go nowhere, or you can explode very quickly because you look at it as a business. So what made it a business for you? In what way did you treat it as a business? Did you look at the metrics? Did you realize what to track and how to go about it in order for it to be successful?
Yeah, definitely. Because I had tons of failure from before. And the biggest thing is, before we were running a SaaS and we were building the solution first and then trying to look at who are our customer. Is it marketers, educators? We were going everywhere. And so I learned a ton about you really need to just solve one problem for one group of people. So this time around is so easy because I'm on my own. I can move so fast. So I look at not really data. I'm not that data driven, but I look for signals. So the reason why I started with the building public guide is I was watching around Twitter space and a lot of people are starting to build in public. But then I did a Google search, build in public. I saw 4 articles and they are like 1,500 words. That's it. So I was like, how come no one is teaching this, but everyone is trying to do it? So that was my first like, oh my God, I am the person to do this. But also because it fits with my life principle, like honesty, transparency, helpfulness is who I am and how I want to live it for more and more decades. So I just give it a try. So the guide was the first project, and then I look for the signals. Are people enjoying it? Do I get readers? And it did. So I look for the second signal. Can I build another product, which is the free email course, Making Twitter Friends? And it kind of got a lot of subscribers too. And then I started my paid product. So it's always step by step, trying to figure out that next baby step.
Are you the believer in the principle of audience first, product second, or rather build small products, whether you call them MVPs or projects or freebies, lead magnets, whatever, and that comes first, and from that you're trying to low effort products from which you're trying to get the audience and the signals?
I think that's a great question. I think people can take that a wrong way when we say audience first. I think so many people, right? Actually, there are people doing this before I do it. They just grow the following first, like on YouTube. I don't know what I'm doing, so let's just shoot some videos, grow it to 10K followers, and then figure out what's next. Of course, I've been observing, and I see a lot of people actually stop creating content because they're like, what is this? This is not a business. Why am I spending so many hours on this? Yeah, so the approach that I took is I definitely believe in audience first, because when you show up and immediately you jump to working on a paid product and trying to charge people, it doesn't work in this economy because you need to build a lot of trust first. And when I say I have tons of failures before, entrepreneurial experience, really when I got into this space, I had no niche, I had no friends, I had no followers. So I decided to spend 6 months making $0 just to build up that trust and credibility. So in terms of audience first, I believe in it because, hey, I spent 6 months building audience first, but it is a very strategic audience, like building public audience, people who are just getting started online, instead of I'm just creating content and see who is just watching.
Yeah.
Not like that.
Can you run me through the sort of product creation? It seems to me like you did your research. So the product was not just a spur of a moment and your own passion, but actually you looked at the audience and you looked at the market, how it was back then. How would you approach it right now? How would you start your research? Where would it be? Would it be a social platform that you enjoy or a topic that you enjoy? How would you go about it?
Yeah, it is very similar to how I started my first project, Building Public Guide. So again, back then I was a nobody, right? So if I were to write the Building Public Guide and then I would put it out maybe on Twitter or indiehackers.com, no one would care about me. Like, who is this guy, Kevon, trying to write a guide to teach us? That will never work. So it is still the same approach, which I first got onto the Building Public group on Indie Hackers, and I actually read every single post, and I have the Notion page open. So I took down all the notes. So it's kind of like learning in public. Over time, I am equipped of all the knowledge around this topic. And then what I did next is there are always new posts coming out every day. So I would be, every morning, I opened that page and I saw a new question. I'm like, okay, let me just try to help this person. Not as an expert, because I'm not, but as someone who is like learning a couple of weeks ago with all this knowledge. So people find it really helpful. So I decided to take my time to write the guide, but keep helping people, keep asking, hey, maybe you can read a chapter and share with me your feedback. So I think that was the customer research or market research that I still think is the most valid way. You have to put the people first, and you have to watch and listen to all the signals so that your product has all the answers for them. And maybe even your copywriting of your landing page has all the answers. That's when people go, wow, this is written for me because it speaks to their heart. So I'll still do it the same way.
There are two approaches that you can take, I think, right? So you can be an expert if you have some trust and experience and maybe a following, but you can also take the learner's approach, the student that just, as you said, learns in public, right? And then you build the knowledge and the trust and the expertise over time while just sharing what you learn. That's sort of what you're saying, right?
Totally. Even though I have about 6 years of entrepreneurial experience, I prefer to show up as a learner. Like, I just feel kind of weird if I have to pretend that I know a lot. And then if people challenge me, I'm like, I'm a bit paranoid. I don't want to feel like that because it will happen a lot. So I prefer to show up as, I'm learning this, I'm sharing this. You might find this useful, but if you don't, that's okay as well.
We don't want the imposter syndrome to kick in too often, right?
I think so, yeah.
We talk a lot about trust, and you mentioned trust and building trust. What is the indicator of trust these days? Because if we sort of dumb it down only to the number of followers, then it's sort of, I don't know, sad maybe, right? That we judge, and you mentioned in your book as well that we sort of, that's how it is. We judge people and their expertise based on the number of followers on the social platform that we are active on and try to build this expertise. Is there any other indicators, or do you think that this is unfortunately it and we have to just gather the numbers?
I think that was the first impression. We are all judgmental. So Philip, when I look at your Twitter account, I'm like, okay, he got so many followers. So I immediately form a perception about who you are. We all do that. So it's a fact. But I think eventually, if you want to sell something to someone, if you want someone to be in your community, it has to be more than that, because we're not dumb people. Everyone is kind of smart. Everyone can see it. I think the best signal these days are how many people are talking about you. I think that is really hard to fake. On Instagram, on Twitter, it's so easy to fake follower count. It's so easy to fake engagement, like likes or even replies. It's easy. Yeah, I see a lot of AI replies these days. But when you have real people saying, Philip, you are awesome. You're the person I would recommend to everyone. When you hear people say Kevon is the most genuine person on Twitter from someone you know, I think that's the best signal. So I'm always trying to, build myself a reputation that optimize those kind of signals.
And when you talk about signals, we talk about Twitter. That's your platform of choice right now. Although you are expanding, I think, into YouTube, right? A little bit more. Can you tell me about those choices? Like, did you choose Twitter because it was your favorite platform from the get-go, or because your market and the people that you wanted to get in touch with, they were there? Or it was just a calculated choice?
Semi-calculated. So far from the conversation, you probably know that I do things because of certain reasons. I don't just do it. And this is because I've done all the wrong choices in the past. So I chose Twitter mainly because I started from indiehackers.com. And my focus are bootstrap founders, bootstrap entrepreneurs, and new creators, people just getting started. And naturally, a lot of them are actually on Twitter. So I find a lot of people on Indie Hacker and Twitter. So it's so easy for me to relate to these people and make friends with them. It feels very natural. But the second reason is I actually started YouTube back in 2018. I made 6 videos by myself. I did all the editing. It took me 30 hours for one video. And I realized the format matters a lot. Like YouTube, 30 hours a week. There's no way I can scale this business. Like, the entire week I'm working on one video. But Twitter is different. Like I'm pretty comfortable writing. So to be able to jot down my ideas and thoughts and push out like 20 tweets a week, that's pretty easy. I can do it in like an hour and a half for 20 tweets a week these days. So I think finding a medium that's comfortable to you is super important. So that's why some people are good at taking up the camera and like talk, and Instagram story is great. But if you're more knowledge or wisdom based, Twitter is the place.
At the same time, you are now quite consistently creating on YouTube as well. And from talking with other creators, big YouTubers even, the value that lies there is the longevity of the platform. So you post a tweet, it has a shelf life of a day tops, and then it disappears. Whereas you can make a well-positioned video, and then it will last you for years. Because the problems never change, right? People will still look for them. YouTube being like the second biggest search engine at the moment, people go there and will find those answers, and hopefully over time you can build up a bigger collection of knowledge that is there. Is that the thinking behind it, or is it just a passion project?
Oh, it's not a passion project.
You just said you are a calculated person. You're a calculated person. No.
No passion. But actually, I have a interesting theory about passion. I think passion comes when you are mindful about how you do things. Like me, building public is who I am, and Twitter is how I want to talk. And you get recognition. That's when passion comes, when these two things overlap. But anyway, YouTube is again a strategy. I am a believer that when you're just starting out, you need to focus on one platform, because it's not just about posting. Posting is the easy part. It's about understanding the culture, blending into the network, knowing people, getting the shout out, the best signals you can. It takes a long time. So the first 2 years, only Twitter. But after 2 years, I feel like, well, Twitter is easy for me because I have a system around that. And YouTube comes in because I was thinking my biggest product is my Building Public Mastery live cohort. And I have to teach live. People need to see who I am, the energy level, what kind of person he really is. Is he really someone in his article, or is he faking it in his article? People need to see that. And the best way is to show up on video. So I think by being on YouTube, people can get a sense of what the course is like. That was reason number one. I think reason number two is what you said. Like Twitter essentially is still relying on people. So you get discovered through other people. But YouTube opened up like a new thing through keyword for me. So I just want to bet on that. But I do have a very specific positioning for each channel. So for YouTube, I'm not trying to be someone with 100,000 followers. I am looking at YouTube as, Twitter is where people discover me. Newsletter is how we keep in touch. YouTube is how we really build that connection, because you're looking into my face. And then that's the user journey between these people and me. That's how I think about it.
I actually had a conversation about it quite recently. I don't know if you agree that especially these days with, as you mentioned, AI replies, AI content, AI tweets, the trust in the written word disappears a little bit, or at least diminishes the value of the written word. Whereas you talking to a camera, well, not yet that easy to fake. Do you think that the value of the face value of a creator will increase with time?
I absolutely agree. I was just replying someone's tweet about text tweets are easy to fake. Everyone sounds like they're expert. Building a course, writing a book is a bit harder, especially writing a book. Well, ebook is easy. You can write whatever, publish whatever in weeks. But if you really want a book that is, someone hold the book and take a picture of it, not so easy. And that's also my reason why I publish a book, because I think it's a huge credibility boost because people are holding your book. So yes, I think we should do more things that has a higher barrier to entry.
You mentioned Twitter system, because you said Twitter is easy for me because I have a system. So let's circle back to the system. Can you share about the system? Do you have like now, I don't know, content idea database, including thousands of items, and you just pick and choose and schedule them 10 days ahead? Or how does it work?
First of all, I'm not a crazy system person. I'm not the Notion guru or anyone with like thousands of tweets ideas. My system is very simple because I feel like the best system is whatever fits you. You don't need someone else like complicated system. So I'm really against writing real-time tweets. Like when you want to say something and you go on twitter.com and try to write something, it's going to be trash, because I don't know if that happens to you, but every time I'm writing, I'm overthinking the word choice. When I'm about to press publish, I'm like, oh, should I do it? And then after I click it, I'm like, oh, I want to delete it and change something. It takes ages to write that tweet real time. So it's a waste of time. But my system is like, I collect ideas anytime. Even in the shower, I would jump out and write it down on my phone. Every Monday after lunch, I have a 90-minute block, and I would look at the ideas that I've jotted down over the last week, or actually from before. And I would just like look at the 20 slots that I need to fill this week, and I would take them, and I'm in writing mode now. I'm not in like coming up with ideas mode. I would just take them and write it. So it's very effective because I'm writing in batch and I'm in a storytelling mode. So I can, be really good at it for like 2 hours, and I would schedule all of them. So that's one side of it. But the other side is the building public part. So when you're using this method, usually you're talking about thoughts, you're talking about opinions, and it's not very good when you really want to show something about your current product. So that is a bit more strategic. For example, if I have like a product launch coming up, usually I would, find maybe 3 angles to talk about it this week, and then 3 angles to talk about it next week, and then I would slot it in as well. But that being said, I still believe we should leave 20% for just randomness. Sometimes I'm doing something I really want to put on Twitter, I can do it, but then now there's no pressure. Like if I don't do it, I still have the scheduled thoughts going out. So I can really focus on the real work, not just tweeting. So that's my system.
I don't want to go too in depth because I can send everyone over to your book, Find Joy in Chaos. That goes very in depth into ideas generation and systems and whatnot. But what I'm very interested in, if you could shortly describe, is the evolving tactic of growth while you grow. So it's a little bit different when you're a small account, and a little bit different things that you should do, whereas where you grow, the tactics and the strategy changes and adapts a little. Can you tell us shortly how would you go about it?
This is a tough question because the strategy definitely changes, but it's different for everyone because it depends on the niche, the product type, everything. But to put it into perspective, like in my case, I'm a knowledge-based creator. I'm more creator educator. I like to teach, so I spend more time learning how to teach than a creator entertainer who's making fun content. So to me, the early stage strategy is very focused on working with the community, like asking them for feedback for my chapters, and then they get early access to it. I listen carefully to the feedback. I use their feedback to shape the product. It's like working with a lot of beta users at the same time. And that works the best because after all, like community audience is all about people. But then getting to where I am today, that part is still ongoing, but I definitely spend more time, figuring out how to grow my email list. How do I design what I said, like Twitter is for discovery, YouTube is to build connection. Design the step so that, people are discovering my work on a step-to-step basis. And then each time they learn a bit more about me. So I spend so much more time on those like back-end engineering things.
Yeah, so funnel building, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 word explain what I just said.
No, but I hear it a lot, and I agree with it completely. In my marketing and sales career, this is also something that we put big emphasis on, which is stop renting someone else's land on Twitter and Instagram and growing following that you can lose. Elon will have a bad day and will block you. Anything can happen. So value of an email is much higher than a random follower, I presume. Can you put a number on it, like conversion wise, even monetary value?
Probably 1 to 100.
Wow.
But at the same time, it's hard to compare like that, because essentially social media is for some things, email list is for some things, right? Let's talk about social media. I think it's great for discovery. Like someone can just tag you and then random people get to know you. I think that's pretty cool. It's good for connections. I think we started talking on Twitter because of the sponsorship slot, and then we were chatting a little bit. That's great. Like very casual, very chit-chatty. And it's great for referral, word of mouth. Like I can just say, Philip is awesome. That's it.
That's going to be a snippet, by the way. Yep.
All right.
I'm putting it in as a testimonial.
Let's do that. Yeah. So social media is great for that. But email list is really for, sharing longer form content, pushing offers, showing people what you're doing. So they have different responsibilities. So a lot of people would say, oh, email list is like 100 times more worthy. But I don't think you can do it without the social media's help.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you refrain from selling on social media? Do you leave your email list for the sales part, and you just use social media to drive people to your emails, and that's when the sales pitch happens?
Oh, yeah. One of my students at Building Public Mastery told me, Kevon, how come you don't talk about the course a lot on Twitter? And I was like thinking about why. And the reason is I don't want to be seen as a person who is like pushing so hard about my offer. Like I'm doing enrollment, so every day I'm going to drop testimonials, drop discount and all that. I don't want to play that game. I'm on Twitter for like a brand, like a person, a real person. I would drop something to say I'm launching the cohort soon, but I wouldn't push too hard. And when I see other experienced creators do that, I think I understand, because Twitter for them is maybe not a major channel. Maybe they have another way for the brand building. But to me, Twitter is kind of my blood. Like I have a book about Twitter, so I want to maintain my reputation that way. So I definitely do more of the launching and selling in emails.
Would it be different for YouTube though? Considering that, as you said, this is sort of down the funnel more for people who already know about you, just to get more familiar with your face and create more trust. So are you more comfortable selling there?
No. The reason is because it's even harder to sell on video. It's like, hey, by the way, I have this cohort coming up. That's a little awkward. Plus, the bigger reason is I'm releasing one video every 2 weeks. So it's never going to make it in time for the right message to get to the right hand. So on Twitter, even though I say it's for deepening the connection, I still try to bring people back to the email list there. So yeah, if they already subscribed, then that's fine. But if new people come in, I hope that they would get into the email list, because I can send email anytime. Yeah.
As you're the Building Public guy, then maybe you can publicly tell us a little bit about your product range and the revenue that comes from it. So if you could just shortly describe where the money comes from, which product, and if there is some changes, because right now you have quite a portfolio, I would say, of products and offers, from a free book to a cohort-based course. This is a very popular thing. So can you run us down through the product range, so to speak?
Sure. I'm actually really transparent about this. I have a blog post called the 2022 year in review, and I have the whole pie chart and the numbers in there. So in 2022, I think the revenue is like 47,000. It's my second year in this space. So I think it's pretty good. I'm humble. It's growing. The first year is 10K. So it was very, very frustrating if you just look at the numbers. But again, it's a long thing. So I think it's good. Anyway, second year, 2022, I believe the cohort-based course is like 70%, 70, because it's my biggest product. I run it with my all my effort, and when I run the cohort that month, I can do nothing else. I put all my energy to my student, so that's who I am. And then there's like a bunch of other things like info products, books, a bit of consulting calls, sponsorships, a bit of pay workshops, a bit of partnerships, and those are like 30%. So it's very simple, like my portfolio in a sense, if you look at it this way.
The cohort-based course is then the end of the funnel. That's where you sort of would like everyone to end up, right?
Yeah, exactly. That would be because it's my biggest product, so it's also the highest price point. But of course, if you are into, I don't know, like value ladder or like portfolio, whatever that is, you always want a way for people to stay if they want to get more value from you. But this is we can talk about this for hours. You can charge a recurring fee for staying in a community. But I'm a big fan of, I think Daniel Vassallo talks about this, and a few creators around me talk about this, like asking people to pay monthly to stay in a course community. It's not that nice. On one hand, from a business decision standpoint, it's easier to get someone to say, I have $1,500 and I want to learn this thing, pay once and stay in. On a different side, I think people have less friction or worries if they don't have to think about, should I stay in this community or not? So for now, I'm still doing one price point, get in and you're in, right? I don't know whether I would charge like a recurring fee. I don't see it in the next 12 months at all, because as I said, like I don't want people to have that decision-making point every single month or quarter. But I do start to expand my offering to coaching. So once you take Building Public Mastery, it's a 4-week cohort. You're in the community, right? And if you want me to help you step by step to launch your product in public, now I have a new offer, and that is like a 4-month thing. So it's a bit like recurring, but not like forever recurring. So that is how I think about extending my offer. But I want to remind anyone listening to this, I'm only extending after 2.5 years. If you start out, don't worry too much. You should focus on one thing at a time.
All right. So a little quick fire round. What do you say about that? Short questions and short answers. Very easy.
No worries. I'm an open book.
Are you a team player or lone wolf?
Lone wolf.
Do you take risks or carefully calculate?
Carefully calculate.
Mobile or desktop?
Desktop.
Who inspires you most?
This is, wow. So many different answers. My daughter, Avery, my first daughter, Avery.
The second one won't be happy to hear it.
Well, she's only 7 weeks.
This podcast is going big. She's going to hear it. I promise. All right. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Never thought of this.
I'm glad you stumbled.
I think a helicopter pilot would be cool.
Nice. What is an underappreciated business tool that you couldn't live without?
Emails. I'm a lover of emails. I'm also a zero inbox guy.
Welcome to the club. What's your productivity life hack?
I plan for Monday to Wednesday, but I leave Thursday and Friday pretty empty, so I can clean up the leftover. This works so well for me.
And lastly, what does success mean to you?
It means I'm doing something I really enjoy. Like I wake up, I feel energized to go to do my thing, and then I'm getting recognized, and people are getting help and value around me, that's actually exactly what I'm doing now. That's why I'm going to keep going no matter what.
Amazing. Okay. I was thinking about you building in public. It's very meta. But I wonder sometimes whether we may be forced into an echo chamber of sorts. We're talking about building in public. In public, we talk about content creation by creating content, and it creates this sort of there's only one way to do things. Are you open to like exploring different ways of doing business, or you think you found the one and only recipe to build a sustainable business without huge upfront investment?
Oh, I definitely don't think building public is the only strategy. Like personally, I don't just use building in public, right? I have my email strategy, I have my sales strategy. So I think building public is only one thing of your skill set, and it's only good for a certain kind of business and people. It's especially good for, solopreneurs who don't want to spend too much money on marketing. Like we have to rely on ourselves, which our stories are all free. Social media is also free in a way. But if you are, like my previous life, if you are in an angel-backed situation, I would think building in public might be a waste of time. Like it's much better if you go get a partnership that can bring you thousands of users already, that kind of thing. So I'm definitely open to, it's a portfolio of skill sets, of strategies, and building public is just one that is possible for you.
I have a sort of thought experiment. If you had the angel money that you should invest in yourself, in your personal brand, how would you spend it?
I thought about this, I thought about creators can raise money, it's a business. We are the business. But honestly, if you give me money, I don't know what to do because I study finance. I did accounting as well. So I have my profit and loss like month to month. I track everything. And I'm very careful about how I spend money. And this is why like a lot of early creators, they would go out, buy a lot of courses and those. I would never do that. So there's a book called Profit First. It's about, preserving your profit, keep some for your savings, keep some for taxes. And the way I look at it is my current profit margin is 70%. So revenue 100%, 30% cost. And as I grow, and if I just don't spend on anything new, that percentage will drop. Like this year, maybe it will drop to 20%. So then I will look at, I should still push it to 30% because with some investment or budget, you can grow faster. Then I would look at, okay, now I have like 6 more K to spend. So this is my current way. So back to your question, if you give me like 100,000 right now, I really don't know where I would spend because if I'm spending on ads, bringing more people into my email list, it's just going to overwhelm me. I don't want to get burned out. So I prefer a very steady growth.
That's the lifestyle that you have chosen. That's what we talked about, right?
Exactly.
Circling back to the community, we mentioned it a lot. Some creators they use interchangeably the term audience and community. Some, on the other hand, think of community as people that you actually spend time with and talk with, maybe even outside of social media, maybe on a Slack group or anything like that. Have you been part of any communities like this or built your own with your course? And what kind of value do you see in such a close-knit community rather than just audience-wise?
Good question. Because as much as I'm seen as a community person from an outsider standpoint, I'm not very active in many communities because I just don't have the time. It takes time to, again, knowing the people, helping them, or even ask questions. So I'm very careful with that. So far, I run my own community and I'm only in one other community. So this one is called Creator Science by Jay Clouds. I got in because I feel like he's like me. The way he shows up is very genuine, very helpful, not just want to push products to your face, not just want you to take out your credit card. And my thought is, I want to learn from this guy. And when I got in, I was surprised. The people in there are exactly like us. Super supportive, super helpful, nothing like the Twitter bros. So I think it's money well spent. Yeah.
It's worth mentioning that JCloud's community is a very high ticket community. I think not many other are as such high ticket. Do you think that maybe, and it's limited, there are like 200 spots and now there's a waiting list of people that want to get in. Do you think that this exclusivity is like people pay money and they have this commitment, skin in the game type of stuff, that it's not like some other free community, or as you mentioned, you buy a product and then you have a lifetime community. Maybe there is not enough incentive to be engaged, to be part of it, because this is where you spend your money. That's your intentionality in doing that, right?
Oh, totally. Like, for example, in my case, right, people pay one fee, get in, take the course, and 50% or even 60% will never show up again.
Mm-hmm.
Even they don't have to pay anymore. It's just how people work. Like, they focus on one thing at a time. But for Jay's, it's a recurring fee. I like the exclusivity, but not because it's like a marketing tactic or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's because we understand the value of a community decreases as the number of members increases. I actually wrote a tweet back to Jay, I think a week ago. Someone was asking him, would you ever change this decision to open up to more than 200? And I reply, if you open up more than 200, I'll be the first one to go.
Yeah.
And the reason is, it's true. I cannot manage my energy in there. I wouldn't be helpful. I wouldn't get value. Why would I be paying? So I think he's really smart about this. Yeah.
As a creator, what kind of value do you get from such community? I'm 100% sure that you can teach people a lot of things. What do you learn from them?
I think one thing we entrepreneurs have to recognize is that there are a lot of content out there teaching entrepreneurship, right? But usually they're for beginners.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the same thing. And once you're past the beginner stage, like I think I'm in a growth stage right now,
Mm-hmm.
those articles, those free videos, they're not digging deep enough because everyone is creating those free content for the beginners. So the biggest value when I got into JCloud's community is that I can chat with other creators. We all kind of growth stage.
Mm-hmm.
And we can talk about, okay, we both have a cohort coming up. What are some ways to do promotion? Oh, you can do affiliate programming. And you don't have to ask people to promote your course. You can ask people to promote your free events. I didn't know that. That's like so cool. And then he's even sent me his whole like Notion document. And now I can just like create my own with ease. So that kind of support to each other is incredible. Like I think like $1,000, $2,000 is worth it when you are ready to share that knowledge with other entrepreneurs. But of course, if you're just there to keep getting from people, like it might not go so well. But yeah, there's a lot of hidden secret in entrepreneurship that people just don't talk about.
Can you tell us what are the different problems that you're facing now versus the beginner stage? So you're past sort of the urge, I guess, to grow your following exponentially. You're facing more business issues and sales issues and marketing issues. What are those that occupy the most of your time?
I think we're always thinking about sales, right? This is actually really hard as a cohort-based course creator.
Uh-huh.
You run 3-4 times a year. It is 70% of my revenue. Now I'm opening up the cart next week. Next week is April 18. You always get this feeling like, oh my God, what if this enrollment sucks? Then your whole plan for the year is kind of ruined because of that. So that's why we always think about sales. Like, okay, how can we get more people into the door so that we can show some kind of value? What are some ways so that we can maybe get early enrollments to know for sure how many people would sign up? You don't want to end the enrollment on the day you start the course, right? That would be very busy on the last few days. So I think sales is always top of mind. Second of all, I definitely see a lot of topics around how overwhelmed we are, like how close to burnout we are. Like, honestly, I'm very disciplined. I'm very organized, and I handle my energy pretty well. But still, I feel sometimes, some days, I feel frustrated. Like, I have so much to do. I'm the only one who can do it. I have contractors, but they cannot do what I do. They handle some parts, but I still have to do most of it. Like my YouTube videos, like, it's not as easy as you film it, throw it to an editor, and they will finish the job. If you have $500 for each video, maybe. But I don't have that budget, so I actually have to watch all the clips and give them a very detailed instructions, so then they can do a job at a very cheaper rate, right? Less hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's managing the timeline and energy.
Do you think that that's because your business is so attached to, well, your personal brand? Like you're the one that has to be on those videos. You're the one that has to run the cohort course. Have you thought about ways to sort of detach yourself from the business, create, I don't know, info products, or long-term hire people that could run the cohort courses, community managers and whatnot, that could support you in this? Or you think that, well, this is the promise that I make to my audience to be there for them, so I have to do that?
I definitely think I can hire people to help me out. Like, for example, in the cohort, I already have a community assistant. But at the same time, I feel like this is what a creator is about. Like, once you outsource some parts of it, the quality will go down. And people, honestly, I ask my students, like, okay, let's have some feedback session where you can all share and we'll go around. But some students actually say, I'm here for you, Kevon. So I want to hear you talk more. So I think we just need to acknowledge that this is the business model. We can delegate a lot of the back end to other people, but like Ali Abdal, I think he mentioned in some videos, like he still has to do all the videos. He has to show up, but the research and scripting can be done by someone else. I'm not at the point where I'm ready to, outsource more. It's not the right time for me yet, but maybe eventually I can bring in other people to teach this topic using their name. It doesn't have to be my name, honestly. Yeah,
I think you're right. It's a balancing act. So if you want to grow on scale and hire more people, then maybe the production quality grows, but the personal brand quality will diminish and your time involvement will drop. So yeah, it's definitely a balance that you have to achieve. I'm glad to hear that you are in your balance at the moment. I hope you will not burn out. I hope that you'll continue to churn out awesome content. Do you have any goals for the upcoming year, like revenue-wise or other?
Yeah, definitely. Pretty open about that as well. My goal this year is 120K. I don't think I can make it, but I'm like the Google OKR guy. I like to aim high. So even if I failed, I would have achieved more than if I aim low. So 120K, but that's just kind of like a North Star metric. I'm still doing the same thing, still creating value for the students. That doesn't change.
And you're creating a lot of value, and you provided us a lot of value in this little interview. So I thank you for that. And I thank you for your time.
You're welcome, Philip. I really enjoy this kind of chat. Like, it's so authentic, casual, and not scripted. So it's kind of fun as well.
Well, I do have a little script on the side, but...
not scripted on my side.
Oh, no, I wouldn't let you script your answers. I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Kevon. And good luck.
Thanks for having me, Philip.
I have to say, I've experienced it myself. Both learning and building is so much easier when you do it with other people in a community, especially in a creator economy where most creators are, well, by themselves. So let's set high goals, try to reach them together, and be okay with falling a little bit short. My goal right now is to get as many reviews of this podcast as possible. So please, leave us a review wherever you're watching or listening to us. and I'll catch you in the next one.